Greetings, one and all, and welcome back to the YouTube audiobook series of The Snake and the Rose. I am Darius, and I am here to introduce this part of The Snake and the Rose, Chapter 5, Unexpected Changes. If you didn't listen to the last one, I would highly suggest doing so. But if you don't, if you're caught up, then you may continue on.
After what seemed to be 5 minutes, I began to slowly gain consciousness from my sudden blackout. This was the second time now that I passed out today. Like I said earlier, I knew I didn't have any medical conditions that would have caused these things to happen. However, at this point, I wished that it was some weird health issue that popped up. I didn't like the thought of being stuck with a demon for the rest of my life, or the fact that he had powers and could do what he wanted. I started to orient myself onto my feet. As I stood up, I felt like my equilibrium was thrown off for some reason. It could have been from the blackout that I just had, but I had a deeper feeling that something else was wrong. Along with that, my head started to hurt like before. I raised my hands to hold my head and decided to speak aloud. What the fuck happened? I started to move myself around, gaining more stability of each of my body limbs. The only thing was, I was becoming discombobulated from the weight of my body. It was like I was a baby trying to walk and move again, but I didn't know why. I was 20 years old. If I didn't know how to move, I wouldn't be where I am today. As I started recognizing these feelings, I heard a low-pitched moan and groan coming from the floor. I turned myself to the noise and found my body starting to move. At the sight of that, I started to freak out in my head. Why was my body moving by itself? Why did my voice sound lower-pitched? And why did I feel so tall? Okay, it was probably because my body was on the ground and I was standing. So that would make sense why I felt so tall. Also, weirdly enough, I quickly realized that it was Darius possessing my body again. So that would explain why my voice was so low. Yet, there was another thought that crossed my mind. If he was in my body, then what was I? Darius, grab me that mirror out of your pocket,
Why do you need that?
he said, trying to recover from his blackout. Just grab it, I demanded him.
Okay, fine.
He reached my hand into my pocket and did as I asked.
Here.
As I started to grab it, I caught a glimpse of my arm. It was red and a bit more muscular than before. I gazed at it for a second as I was trying to grab the little circle mirror from Darius. As I brought the reflective glass to my face, I became horror-struck at the sight I saw and suddenly became fully aware of the situation that we were in. Oh, shit! I dropped the mirror to the ground and appeared at my arms and hands. I was in control of Darius's body, and he was in control of mine. We switched again. But why did we switch like this? If this really happened, why did I not go to that bubble that I was in before? Isn't that how the switching thing worked? And the greatest question of all, why the hell was I looking like a demon? I never died, so why can I inhabit a demon's body? Darius started to stand up and respond to my freak out.
What are you complaining about now?
Darius, look at your hands! I exclaimed in terror. He did as he was told and lifted his arms. I could visibly see the confusion being expressed upon his face. Now look at me! I quickly added. He did so, and afterwards he reflected the same concern as I did.
Oh, shit.
he said, finally realizing the fucked up situation we were in. I was standing up in a demon body. Even worse, a male demon body. If it wasn't bad enough that I was just told that a demon was paired with me that I could only see, this was the icing on the fucking cake. What the hell happened? Why do I have horns? Why am I in your body? I asked, freaking out ballistically on Darius.
Abby, I don't know.
He uttered. He looked to the wall trying to think, when suddenly I seen the fictional light bulb light above his head.
I do know. You touched me. Remember, you pushed me. I told you not to touch me. Every time we touch, we switch right now.
Darius shouted aggressively at me. Don't shout at me! I'm sorry, I forgot about it. I replied back. The fact was that I truly did forget about that. I was just so caught up in my emotions. Everything was happening so fast. Having a normal person adapt to the sudden changes, such as having a demon, isn't easy to handle. It was also most certainly hard to wrap your head around. But add the whole religious factor to top it all off, and the issue becomes even more complicated than what it was before. How else was I supposed to handle this?
Well, clearly, you forgot.
He said, gesturing to both of us being switched. He left me speechless as he started to examine himself again. There was nothing I could say that would have made this any better, but I was still in shock from everything that was happening. I was watching a demon lose his cool in my body. I was staring confused and helpless at this prodigy of Satan as he was expressing his frustration and trying to think. I was trying to think of solutions of my own, but I figured he would know more than me. Darius, what do we do? How do we get out of this? I asked, trying to constrain myself from flipping shit. He paused his thoughts and started to look at me. I could see he was trying to figure out what to say to me. But I suddenly remembered some information that Darius told me before this happened. You mentioned earlier that we switched because of us touching each other. So that means we just need to touch each other again and we'll switch back, right? Darius looked up at me with a surprised and happy look on his face.
Yes, you're right. So give me your arm.
He displayed his left arm, gesturing to grab mine. Upon his request, I reached my right hand out and grabbed his arm as well. We stood there for a few seconds, waiting for the switch to happen. But it never came. Why isn't it working? I asked, intruding the silence-filled air.
I don't know.
He replied back. Simultaneously, we both started to let go of each other, devastated at the results of our efforts. I stared at Darius as he was trying to keep his composure. I had never been in this situation before, and I didn't even think something like this was possible. My emotions started really taking over. I was in such a state of panic, confusion, and dread, to the point where I just wanted to break down. After a moment, I felt something glide in between my legs and froze. I began to wince and squeeze my thighs together, trying to steady it. I looked at Darius to find that he was looking at my scared expression that was displayed on my face.
What? What's wrong?
He asked. I lifted my head just enough to look at the ceiling and brought my hand up, pointing my finger downward. I thought that would be enough for Darius to get the hint, but he continued to look at me with confusion. That is not my part. I finally spoke, still gesturing to myself. After a few seconds, it finally clicked in Darius's head.
I know you don't have your part right now. Again, I am sorry, but sadly you're gonna have to try and be okay with it for right now.
Did he seriously just say that? How was I, a female human, supposed to be okay with being in a male body? Not to mention the fact that the body I possessed was a demon. He is dead! There is no way in hell I was gonna live with that fact. You want me to be comfortable in a male body? A male demon body? I exclaimed, yelling at the top of my lungs.
Hey, don't shout at me. I'm in the same boat as you. You think I want to be comfortable in a female body? A human female body?
I jumped back a little. I wasn't expecting him to shout at me, but I suppose it was only fair for him to do so as I did it a moment ago. This can't be happening to me, I continued to say aloud. I began to place the arms of the body onto the thighs to support me. Thinking upon this situation, I began to cry to heaven above, asking why this was happening to me, and for the Lord to have mercy. I couldn't imagine why this would be happening. I knew I was a sinner, no doubt in that. However, I would have had to do something absolutely terrible in order to receive this punishment. I didn't murder anyone or steal. I honored my father and mother. But yet here I was, paired up with a demon.
Stop doing that.
Darius scolded after a minute. What else do you want me to do? I am cursed right now. I am in a demon body, and if that wasn't bad enough, I don't even know you.
Well, guess what? The feeling is mutual. If you don't think I feel the same way, then you're sadly mistaken. I am just as uncomfortable with this as you are. We are in the same fucking boat, Abby.
I just want my body back, I said, frustrated and defeated. I stared at Darius as he was realizing the pain I felt from his yelling. He took off the wig that I had on before this happened and apologized for his outburst. Silence started to fill the air again as we stood clueless on what to do. I took off the glasses he had on to clear my line of sight. I turned myself away for a moment to compose my anger and frustration. I was trying to wrap my head around everything. Being paired with a demon, him being able to possess my body, having access to my thoughts and memories, and the stupid switching that we can't control. I wanted to place all the blame for this chaos on Darius. However, deep down somewhere in my heart, I semi-knew that he was just as clueless as I was. If what he had told me was true, we truly were in the same boat. So what do we do? What do we do? I turned back and asked Darius.
I don't know. But maybe we could... Darius, where are you?
A deep, raspy voice called from thin air. I started to look about, trying to find out where the voice came from, but there was no one else in the room. I started to panic again as I gained sight of Darius. Darius, who is that?
Fuck. Abby, you gotta go.
Darius said with a voice of concern. Go? Go where? How do you... I started to see Darius raising his hands towards me. What are you doing?
I don't know. Something.
And the next thing I knew, I was teleported to a room with a giant screen and nothing else. Looking at the screen, I seen a large male demon talking.
Well, if it isn't my favorite demon, Darius.
He said, This demon knows Darius? And he is his favorite? What the hell is Darius so worried about?
Don't you come at the most convenient time, Satan.
Darius said back. Oh, fuck! I said aloud as it echoed through the dark room. And now I found my eyes glued to the screen.
This has been Chapter 5, Unexpected Changes, from The Snake and the Rose, written by Abby Matthies. Tune into the next video for Chapter 6. Thank you for listening.